I'm Goldie Metcalf.
I'm Charlie Naughton.
And this is episode 50 of your favorite show, Midnight in Baghdad. Tonight on the show, we have Changing the Moon's Orbit. We have free boob jobs for all. Well, if you're a woman. A racist climate group. Investigative journalism is taken to a brand new level. Sadly, a patient dies after security performs surgery. First, we're just going to maybe reflect, Charlie, on the show. Episode 50. Who would have thunk it, eh?
No, not us anyway.
Not us.
We've had a couple of Kickstarter shows before, and we've never got beyond episode 10. Unless, of course, remember we'd be halfway through a show and the equipment would go, and we'd start up again, and we just call it a new episode.
Yeah, but those were the great days. They were the heydays. You know what I mean? That's when we did it. That's when we did it for pure love and fun. And now we do it obviously to pay the bills.
Cash.
But they were great times. And you'd say that we only made 10 episodes of some other things. That could have spanned 5 years of our lives, though. You know what I mean? There was a lot of effort put into each and every episode. So, folks, thanks very much for sticking with us. It's because of you guys out there that we continue to make these shows. And the fact that we've got to 50 is a testament, not just to ourselves, but to you people out there too. So thank you. And here's to another next 5. That song, of course.
50, another next 50.
Another 50, another next 50. Well,
here first, folks. Midnight in Baghdad will cease trading at episode 55. We probably won't even make it that far now. We're after jinxing it.
Baby steps. Okay, so let's get into the show.
That was a lovely piece of music, Goldie, you had at the start.
It was, of course, our good friend Merle Haggard, wishing all these old things were new. A rogue killer drone hunted down a human target without being instructed to. A UN report says. Now, by the UN, I presume it's meaning the United Nations. And that's probably relevant later in our show. But the minute you see this, what do you think, Charlie?
Read it again. Sorry, Goldie.
A rogue killer drone hunted down a human target without being instructed to. UN report says.
So I'd be thinking, is this going to be about artificial intelligence?
Exactly. You're thinking Terminator, aren't you?
Yeah.
Let's not beat around the bush tonight. I know we like to do that a lot, but let's just get straight into it. The Terminator. And we've talked about on our show before the apocalypse and how mankind will end. And we've probably talked about this kind of thing. But it's something that constantly rears its head in human society, isn't it? It's always kind of a worry. It's always there, isn't it, in the background?
Yeah. That something goes wrong.
Exactly. And, we always say to ourselves, sure, like when Terminator first came out and those kind of movies came out, Apex and all that kind of stuff came out, we kind of thought, it's too far-fetched. It'll never happen. But every time we make an advance, you kind of think, shit, we're getting closer, aren't we?
Closer, yeah.
We're getting closer and closer.
You hear of automatic cars, automatic robot doctors and everything in the future.
Yeah, you do. And these are all kind of positive things. But now you're looking at a killer drone has actually, an autonomous drone has gone out there and killed somebody, just based on their own decision-making process. You know what I mean? That's insane.
So it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a mistake.
No. They got a target. I think was it Iranian target? It took place in Libya last year.
So is that not a good thing?
Well, I suppose no death is good and no violence is good, but I suppose it's doing what it's meant to do. Do you know what I mean? It's fighting the good fight against terrorism, I suppose.
Yeah. So we're exactly 7 minutes into the show and you've labelled an entire country terrorist.
No, it's
off the 50th with a bang. Was it an innocent person who
it is Libya,
died, or was it
in Libya? No,
Libya, right.
No, it did. It was so now they were running away at the time, but it identified an enemy soldier, presumably a soldier. I think you can call them a soldier, can't you? Even though they may not be officially inducted in any kind of military.
Did they say combatant or something weird now? Yeah, too.
Do you know what I mean? But
yeah.
So it did the job.
It was someone then, an evil person, shall we say?
An evil person, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. It shot who it was meant to shoot. I think it detonates. It's a kind of a suicide bomber, which in itself is kind of a worry, isn't it? Active listener says Elon is afraid of it. I can imagine he is. He'd probably be a target of it. But this is the problem, isn't it? Like this is a drone that's blowing itself up. We're sending in suicide bombers, essentially, which is what, ironically, we're trying to fight.
That's a very good point. Yeah, that's a good point. But
at some point, this AI is going to get
identified. Like
they weren't identified.
What are the exact story of this, Goldie? Did this computer kind of switch itself on and just start looking for a target, or
no?
It was this person identified?
It was sent out into the field to do its job, and it was kind of a fire and forget kind of weapon. So on March 2020, a Cargo 2 quadcopter autonomously attacked a person during a conflict between Libyan government forces and a breakaway military faction led by the Libyan National Army's Khalifa Haftar, not to be confused with the DJ. And this is the Daily Star reported this.
Hold on, this wasn't even an American drone. These countries have drones. That's scary.
Well, you can go down to Smith's and buy a fucking drone if you want. Like it's not like they have nuclear technology. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not to say that a drone.
What do you think they're doing in Libya? Like buying these drones and just hanging grenades out of them and then trying to move the drone as quickly as they can away from them.
But why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they like stick a pipe bomb or something on it? Like on a basic Smiths one. They're achieving the same kind of thing.
Jeez. I hope there's no one in Libya listening to this, because you're probably giving them ideas now. This is terrible.
No, but I just think it's phenomenal, because you're giving that decision to an AI. So what's to stop it? Like this is all the things we're told in the movies growing up. Is don't press the button, don't give it its own power to make its own decisions. Do you know what I mean? And this is exactly what we're doing. It's Skynet coming on. And I just think it's madness. And the fact that they're actually blowing themselves up, they're going to get pissed off with that, aren't they? They're going to say, "Here, I don't want to die." Like when they start developing an awareness, and and that's probably the reason the attack will happen.
So, do you honestly think a drone or whatever, an automated computer, will somehow develop awareness? I mean, it can't evolve. It's not a living organism.
No, but we can, we have proved actually that it can replicate itself. I think it was only in the news there fairly recently that AI has actually started to procreate, essentially. And it's very hard to understand because it's all talking about various different codes and things like that. But there is scope for it there to learn. And
it's not like a sex robot ordering another sex robot online.
It's not like that at all.
That's the next step.
But that's kind of the worrying thing about it, that we are kind of giving it that scope to do that. And, do I worry every single day about it? No, I don't. But it's always in the back of my mind, we're going out one way or another. What's it going to be?
So do you think, though, before you die, you'll own a car that's self-driving?
Oh, absolutely. That's happening now. We have these cars being tested. And I think we've talked about that on our show before.
So do you think you'd buy one?
Maybe. I don't know. By the time they're really mainstream, they're still they're obviously going to be really expensive to purchase. So I think by the time that that my age group will be past kind of owning a car or using a car that much. But
okay, but you get the idea. Like, would you? But I suppose
that's probably down to the fact that old people find it difficult to drive. If it's self-driving car, well, then maybe I would have one longer. I don't know. I think the technology is there, but it's not going to be mainstream.
Would you be okay with it? Is what I'm asking. Yeah, you wouldn't have a problem sitting in a car. Okay.
Oh, it'd be weird. It would be definitely very weird, but I think it's something we just to get used to, and there would have to obviously be that manual override option, I think, as well.
Okay, right.
How do you feel about it?
Oh, the thought terrifies me. Maybe, like you say, we talk about it now, and then over the years it'll become more and more a part of just the dialogue. But the thought of it is terrifying. I don't even trust myself behind the wheel of a car.
Yeah, so, well, I don't trust anyone but myself behind the wheel of a car. It's very, very hard. There's only been a few people in history that I've kind of not been afraid of, but yeah, because I even remember being a kid in the car when your father was driving at night through a country road. Like, that was the scariest thing ever, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was so terrifying. Like, you had no idea what was coming at all.
Half the time my dad would be out of his bin. Made it really scary.
That's it. They would have all been locked. We were all
drinking. Yeah.
The fact that it was late at night, we were all coming home from a function, or they went to their friend's house. Your friends that you thought were your aunt and uncle, but they're just fucking your drinking mates with your parents' drinking buddies. Like, you know what I mean? It's fucking ridiculous. But they'd be locked, and you'd be in the back of the car, not a bother on you, like, well, thinking not a bother, and then you start driving down these roads, and you're fucked. But the best part was falling asleep, wasn't it, in the car? Because that
and being lifted in.
And being lifted in, that sensation of flight almost, isn't it, when you're lifted up?
Because you keep your eyes closed because you don't want to wake up, because then they'll drop you and say, right, you can walk in now or whatever. So you pretend you're asleep. It's a lovely feeling. We'll never experience that feeling again, Goldie, in our life. We
don't, and that's why the team of tonight's song, our show, is wishing all these things were new, because there's certain feelings in your life that you don't get to experience again, ever. So embrace it, enjoy life, folks.
Lovely.
We kind of digress. To kind of finish this topic off, Charlie, would you be are you happy that this drone has actually killed a human being based on its own decision? And on this occasion, the decision was correct from a normal perspective.
No, of course I'm not. No, it is scary. We're lucky we live in a part of the world that might not be affected by this. But then, like you say, you get a rogue drone. Who knows what it would do? So it's terrifying, absolutely terrifying. It is.
It's only a matter of time, folks.
But you can't stop technology, can't you? I mean, like, we don't pull all the cars off the road because there's a certain number of people that die every year on the roads. So it's not like everyone is going to say we can't allow AI anymore in drones. It'll keep moving forward.
Oh, it will. At this stage, it's been written, I think. Do you know what I mean? If that's the way we're going to go, it's the way we're going to go. Do you know what I mean? Something has to take us out. So maybe it's already been written. And this show, and indeed the Terminator and Apex movies, could go down as almost biblical.
Do you think there could be a blend of human android, like the Terminator?
A cyborg is what you're saying, though, isn't it?
Yeah, is that a real word, or is that just a word invented by David Cameron?
Well, either way, it's a word now. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. So do you think that would be the next stage in?
Absolutely, sure. But we have people walking around at the moment with metal hips and all these kind of metal, and things, machines in their arms as well, like for using their hands and stuff. We have nanites. Nanites is something that's actually becoming a reality, and some people will say they're already in our vaccine. Not to go down the COVID route tonight at all, but this is the kind of technology that exists.
Yeah.
So absolutely,
yeah, you're right.
We're essentially.
My kid asked me a really weird question last week. She said, "If I lost a finger, am I still Jenny?" And I said, "Of course you are." And she said, "If I lost a hand, would I be still Jenny?" And I could see where she was going. So limb by limb, basically, she was like, "Right, if I lost my whole arm, am I still?" She was
trying to value her body, like her what was the most important?
Her consciousness or something. What is how much of her would have to disappear before she's not the person she is?
Now, unless she sees that you're hard up for cash, and she's like wondering how much she can sell of herself, to pay the family bills.
Yeah, she was in an ice cold bath. I was running an ice cold bath for her when she was asking me.
Unbelievable! You can buy anything on the dark web.
You can.
Oh, sorry, continue the story, because it's a lovely story. It's a lovely story.
No, it's a scary story. Because it got me thinking. I don't know the answer,
But what did you tell her? Like, where did it end?
Well, I did the typical parent thing. I turned it on her and said, right, well, if it was everything, what bit of you is still you? And she said her heart. Her heart is what makes her her. Her other sister said her head, which I'd obviously agree with more. That
my little fella would probably say his flute.
Flute, yeah.
You know what I mean? But they're lovely answers. They're lovely answers.
Great questions.
Fantastic questions.
Kids ask the questions. Kids ask these crazy questions.
They do.
I never thought about that at all.
It just shows that today's kids are kind of a little bit more advanced in that respect, aren't they? With things like that, you know what I mean? It's all about their own body, their own consciousness. Even in schools now, they're talking about appropriate touching and kind of gender issues and all this kind of stuff. So people are definitely, our youth are definitely being educated, which is a fantastic thing.
I had to sign one of those today. They were doing those like stranger questions. You know, your kid is
Yeah.
probably the same. Is it okay? Yes, no, or don't know? And my kid fucked up half the questions. And I was shitting myself. Oh man.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
You'll have social
Well,
services.
it's not a test, of course, but I'm thinking this kid shouldn't be let out of the house.
You'll have social services knocking on your door.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic stuff. But I kind of lost it where we're there now, Charlie. We're talking about the children. Oh yes, apologies. So so my daughter every time she goes to the toilet now, she says privacy, privacy, privacy. You know what I mean? So walking in or staying there to brush my teeth or whatever is no longer acceptable for my 5-year-old.
Right.
She's looking for privacy. Like we wouldn't have heard those words. When we were 5 years of age. Do you know what I mean? So it's definitely good.
So at the age of 5, does she clean her own bum?
Oh, she'll wipe her own bum now,
But doesn't
unless she makes a balls of it. But let her sit and shit. Do you know what I mean? When she does it, makes a bad job of it, she can sit and shit until she fucking learns to do it right. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But I can't remember the last time I wiped her hole, to be honest with you, which is probably a good thing. It was one of those pain in the arse jobs, excuse the pun.
5 seems young.
Yeah, she's like madness.
Advanced for 5.
Well ahead. But listen, we digress again. I'm talking about fearing for the human race due to AI and the whole Terminator problem and whatever. But when you think that we're not quite there yet, we see how stupid some of our world leaders and politicians can be. And a Texas Republican asked a question here recently, can we fix the moon's orbit to fight climate change? He came out with a statement on the 9th of June, or in and around the 9th of June. Have you heard about this story, Charlie?
I have, yeah.
It's absolutely insane. Well, I suppose there's method to his madness, but but it's insane at the same time.
Naive.
Yeah, it is. Like, how does he not think that people are going to read that and go, this fella's an absolute lunatic? But is it Trump politics? Is it a case of there's so many lunatics out there? Do you know what I mean? Like, people are losing their minds. So are politicians becoming lunatics to appeal to us? Because this is what we've become now.
But there's no rule that says a politician has to be a smart man.
No, there absolutely isn't.
Just the elected man. So
you just need to know
that the majority of people are not.
You just need to know how to sell, don't you? You need to know how to sell yourself to these people. But his name is Louis Gohmert. He's a Texas Republican. And he asked, and what kind of directed me to the story is he asked the Forest Service this question and BLM. Right? And I was like, what the hell has Black Lives Matters got to do with moving the moon? I'm like, is this man on drugs? But it actually stands for the Bureau of Land Management. I know. But it's what a way to sensationalize a story. Like, do you know what I mean?
Bureau of Land Management.
Yeah, the Bureau of Land Management.
So, do you think then Black Lives Matter should have come up with a different acronym?
Well, it's got to do with which one do you market the most and which one do you make. Which one
was there first?
But it doesn't matter if you can make yours the one that's known. It doesn't matter what was there first. Do you know? And this is obviously a result of that in some degree. But he wants to basically change the orbit of the moon because he believes it's affecting the climate change, and if you actually do this, you'll help the matter. Like, technically, physics, he's right. Because the moon affects tidal waves and not the tidal waves, but the tides. And there is, I think, some science behind it. The fact that the moon does play an issue with climate change, but realistically, how the fuck are you going to move it, mate?
I think you're being very disingenuous to this poor guy. This fella's a visionary. I mean, in 1961, JFK said by the end of the decade they'd have a man on the moon, and people thought he was crazy. You're laughing this fella because he's saying we can control the moon.
Well, I suppose that's a very good way to put it, Charlie, because now you make me out to be the fucking lunatic if I don't accept that. Do you know what I mean? Because I have to accept that people thought Kennedy was crazy putting people on the moon. I think NASA at the time, or whatever it would have been called at the time, they thought it was crazy.
They thought it was impossible. Yeah,
impossible.
I know you.
So how can I sit here now and not agree with you? You've actually totally changed my mind. That's the first, I think, on this show. Yeah, I accept that it could be a case that in 50 years' time or in a couple of years' time, we will have the ability to move the moon. I think it's highly improbable. But yeah, maybe it will be possible.
And the money and time should be better spent on more realistic, I suppose. Like time is one thing we don't have with this problem.
Time isn't. A Buzz says if
your man hears about the AI, he'll have those drones doing it for him.
He could, yeah, get them to give us a tug. But Buzz says if you change the orbit of the moon, the tides will all change and we'd all die. And that's the other side of it, Buzz. We could potentially be the authors of our own downfall there as well, because if we change the orbit of the moon, we could actually just end up destroying ourselves. But I'm sure the congressman, what did we say his name is? Louis Gohmert has kind of factored this into his equation.
I'd say so, yeah. He's left no stone unturned.
He definitely hasn't. But you said the one thing that we have is time, and that kind of got me thinking that I've been more and more recently looking at shows, history shows and things like that, and it's amazing how much of a blip we are in time. Do you know what I mean? The universe is millions, billions, trillions. I don't even know if there's a word for how old it is. And we're only around for the last couple of thousand years. And that's scary, isn't it? To think that there's so much other stuff happened. And there's a brilliant show on at the moment called Age of the Cats. And it talks about, the saber-toothed tiger and why that didn't survive and why the lion did survive and all the kind of things that happened. And when you think about how long ago it was, it's really scary that we're nothing in this, when you think about time as a whole, in the whole grand scheme of things, we're just here as a blip. And how significant are we when you think about it like that?
Yeah. Although I would say I totally agree with you, Goldie, but that scary clock, you've probably seen it as a kid, and it shows from the beginning of the Big Bang, 24-hour clock, and humans arrive at something like 12:47, I think it is. Sorry, 11:47, like 13 minutes before midnight. So that's how much of a blip we are if all of time was a 24-hour clock. But we've made a hell of an impact, probably in a negative way.
But have we though? We don't know the impact we've made. We're just plodding along. Do you know what I mean? We don't know what the impact.
Well, there's a theory that our time period should be called the anthro something scene. And in other words, most time periods have been named after rocks, geological time periods, the Stone Age, etc., etc. And for the first time ever, we've made such an impact on the landscape in the last 200 years since the Industrial Revolution, a negative change, that this time period should be known as the anthro, whatever. In other words, anthro, I think, means human. So we have made an impact in the short space of time. It might be a good one.
We came up with that, though. Do you know what I mean? We decided that. We decided that that's so different. You know what I mean? Like you need to think beyond that, Charlie. And I don't know if you're capable, because it's a very hard thing to do. But you need to, like, you're saying that that's a big deal. But we made that up ourselves. We said it's a big deal. It's not.
Yeah, but would you not trust these experts that have studied, time, geologists, all that, who have a better grasp of it?
Experts in inverted commas, like they might understand astrophysics and astronomy and, I don't know, genealogy, ecology, whatever, geology. Like they might know all this stuff, but realistically, they don't know how significant that is in the great scheme of things. Like we could be so far behind, we could be so far ahead, and we just don't know is the honest answer. And you've seen a lot of stuff.
I take your point, yeah.
Yeah, and you've seen a lot of stuff lately on the news about UFOs, haven't you? With America basically coming out and acknowledging that they exist, and it's spawned
in a really
all this.
roundabout way.
Yeah, they had, but like there is things that they can't identify. They've never said the word aliens. I don't think they've said it's aliens, but they're acknowledging that UFOs exist and that there's a whole department set up to investigate them. So that has the public's imagination running wild again. And people are asking, well, why isn't there aliens? Why haven't we seen them? And there's all these different answers that you can have, that they're too far away to get to us, or that they don't exist, or we're so far ahead of them, and everyone else is just starting out. That's why we're not seeing the ships. There's all these different explanations to it. But do you ever think about aliens and their existence, and what's your answer?
Yeah. Well, in the last month, I read a science fiction book I'd heard about for years. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's called Roadside Picnic. It was made into a movie called Stalker in the 70s.
Okay.
It's the most mind-blown idea of first contact I've ever come across. And it's called Roadside Picnic because it imagines that basically aliens are traveling through the galaxy and they stop at Earth and they see what a shithole it is, how far behind in technology and everything it is for them, that they basically just stop. They're there for about 2 hours and then they just leave Earth. And it's the only contact with aliens. And the book is set 10 years after that, but with all the debris left behind them. And that's why it's called Roadside Picnic. That basically
it's like somewhere that you pull in to take a piss.
Exactly. And that you never think about again because it's not worth thinking about. And that really got me thinking. I think that's more likely. Not that we're way more advanced than other aliens or cultures. And I think you'll agree, Goldie, and everyone listening in must agree. There has to be other life out there. Has to be.
Statistically, logically, there's infinite, technically probably not infinite, but there's a fucking shitload of stars out there, a shitload of planets. Who's to say that they might not be the exact distance required for life? Who says that is the distance required for life? That's just our understanding so far. There has to be, even if it's just a plant.
And we just define life as carbon or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's more scary, Goldie, if there isn't any other aliens out there. That would be more terrifying. That
we're alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess it probably would be, because then we are the center of the universe. But that's crazy talk.
What are your thoughts on it, Goldie? Then have you thought about aliens much, or you used to love Independence Day? I remember as a kid.
It was one of my favorite movies growing up. Yeah, it was a brilliant movie, and I do love the whole thoughts of fighting an alien invasion. But we all do. That's why those films are so popular, I guess. I think there's definitely life out there without a shadow of a doubt. Have they been? I doubt it. I think it's very, very unlikely that they have been here at all, or if they can even get here. Indeed, do you know what I mean? At what stage are they? There is some kind of paradox. I can't remember the name, and maybe one of our listeners could type it in for me. But there is this kind of paradox that exists, that civilization only kind of evolves to a certain point before it destructs itself, essentially, and the whole cycle starts again. So we will never get to the stage of space flight that we can visit other planets and find other people, because we destroy ourselves before we get to that point. Does that make sense? And that could be because of DAI. It could be of what we talked about earlier on the show. It could be just this natural cycle of life, and there's certain levels you have to try break through to break that cycle. And the amount of civilizations out there that have had the ability to actually break through these cycles, and everyone will eventually, is just so low that we could be so far apart that we'll never see each other. And I think that's probably more likely, scientifically speaking. Do you know what I mean? It makes sense. You can rationalize it, I suppose. And that's why I kind of like to think that that's the reason for it.
So we're like ships in the night. They're there. We'll never meet each other.
Potentially, yeah. Potentially. Right. But we may find signs of each other. And I think that's probably more likely, that we will, in a few years' time, maybe get a signal. Do you know what I mean? We'll detect something. But it's not going to be rocking up in a spaceship, having a chat, meeting in the Starbucks. Like, do you know what I mean? That's not going to happen. It's just going to be...
I'd love if NASA sent off one of our shows as one of the... the way they send off radio signals across across the galaxy.
We would probably be dooming our planet if that was to happen. Maybe not.
I think I have more faith in the show. I think they'd be arriving in their flocks.
Well,
we'd have more alien listeners than human.
I'd love to know what they think of us right now versus what they thought of us 20, 40, 60, 80 years ago. Do you know, would they look at us now and go, these people are fucking nuts? Or do you know what I mean? They're gone PC mad and all that stuff that we usually talk about. Or will they say, oh, they're at actually 0.6 on the scale. This is normal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What will they think of us versus years gone by? Because we have gone crazy. And that brings us on to our next subject. Greta Thunberg. Oh, we all know Greta. Inspired Climate Group. Or sorry, I kind of announced that wrong.
The special needs girl.
So she has special needs, yes.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's how you're supposed to remember her. So
I'll remember whatever fucking way I went.
So a Greta Thunberg inspired climate group shuts down after accusing itself of racism.
Yeah. I heard about this.
Just when you think that you can't be surprised anymore, just when you think you've heard it all, and you're kind of getting used to hearing these crazy things every day about, whatever equality issues and racial issues and identifying issues and whatever is happening at the moment. I don't know what's the word for what's happening at the moment. It's like a revolution almost, an evolution maybe.
Or woke, they say.
We hear this story. Talk to me about this story, Charlie.
Well, I think it's a miscommunication, to be brutally honest. Someone from the Thunberg organization got a phone call from somebody in the Bureau of Land Management, and saying that they weren't doing enough for the BLM. Now, they meant that they needed to be more focused on land, and basically it just kind of skyrocketed from there.
It could have very easily been a mistake caused by the Black Lives Matter versus the Bureau of Land movement. It could be, and that could be a byproduct. But no,
am I right in thinking? No,
I don't think you are. Yeah. I don't think you are. So basically, this group based in New Zealand, Auckland, was set up a couple of years ago, and they were called the School Strike for Climate movement. Okay, and so what they were doing, presumably,
they named themselves after the SS.
Yeah, the SS 4C. School Strike for Climate, and they're basically protesting against climate change. You know what I mean? Like that we need to do better and all that kind of stuff with environmentally recycling and cutting our energy uses and all that kind of stuff. Now, they basically shut themselves down, saying that they can't continue to fight for the environment because they're racist. And the reason that they're racist is because Indigenous people, what they call BIPOCs, so Black, Indigenous, and people of colour members of their group, they're the ones that are going to be affected by climate change more. And it was up to them to lead the charge for climate change.
Sorry, Goldie, you said BIPOC.
BIPOC is BIPOC.
And Black, Indigenous people of colour.
Yeah.
So Black people of colour, is that not like the same thing?
Well, presumably only the ones that are Indigenous to that particular land. Or maybe just Indigenous people all throughout the world. People who belong where they are.
Okay.
Do you understand? So I just don't understand this. At first I was thinking maybe they just didn't allow Black people or BIPOC people to enter their group. Do you know what I mean? They were just all white people standing up to climate change. But no, they actually have loads. BIPOC. Yeah, but they do a white POC. Brilliant. But they do actually have BIPOCs in their group. Loads of them. So then I was like, well,
what's the problem then?
So yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. What was your issue? And they're basically saying that they can't be fighting for the climate when when white people aren't going to be the ones affected by it. It just doesn't make sense to me. Do you know what I mean? It's the Black people or the BIPOC people that are going to be the ones affected more. So they should lead the charge. Like they're basically saying, get up off your hole and sort your own planet out.
Is that what you're implying here, or they're implying? This is what people of color need to kind of be less. They need to be taking more action themselves.
Yeah. So what to
so
quote
it's
them,
kind of like a wake up call to them, is it?
To quote them, they're saying we are disbanding because since 2019 the strike SS4C right has been a racist white dominated space. The post read SS4C AKL has avoided, ignored, and tokenized BIPOC voices and demands, especially those of Pacifica and Maori individuals in the climate activism space. As well as this, the responsibility and urgent need to decolonize the organization has been put off for far too long. Wow. They're talking about paying financial reparations. I just
they are out of their own funds.
Yeah,
that's political correctness gone way too far.
I just don't get it. I was hoping somebody else could look at that story and say make some kind of sense of it, because it doesn't. And you know, even if it did make sense, even if they had racist tendencies, or even if you know they were all white, does it matter if somebody's fighting for a good cause and has turned over a new leaf and kind of realize the error of their ways? Can they not still continue to fight for that then? Do you know?
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah,
it's like a double reverse psychology thing. I just can't get my head around it. Like, it's absolutely amazing.
Like if we let black people in the 1800s try to solve the abolition movement themselves, we said, like, black people, you need to kind of step up here because you're the ones being affected by slavery. So we're going to disband this white organization that is trying to fight for your rights.
It wouldn't be the right thing to do, would it?
No, and it doesn't make any sense.
It's almost like you're turning your back.
Yeah, you can't win. You're damned if you do it, and you're damned if you don't. Basically,
yeah, it's absolutely
it's mental.
It's amazing.
And was there any reaction around the world? Like, I mean, you're fascinated by this. Was there anyone else who stood up and said to the group or said about this that this is ridiculous?
Well, I think the fact that it made the news in the first place shows that, you know, it did get attention. So we're, you know, all is not probably lost yet, because we don't really report on the everyday mundane, do we? So this is obviously this is obviously still something a little bit mad, like. So there is probably hope for us yet. But the more stories you read, you know, and the more groups that pop up and stuff, you really start to worry. You really do start to worry. I got sent a video the other day, and it was in this lecture hall, and I can't recall who it was. Some group who had gathered, you know, some protest group or some organization like a college union or something like that, and in the middle of the lecture, this guy stands up and says, excuse me, can people please stop whispering among themselves because it's affecting my sensory overload syndrome or whatever he had, you know, and people, like, you're not allowed to clap. You can't clap like this because you'll set people off. So what you have to do is jazz hands. Like, so instead of clapping, you're doing jazz hands. And I'm thinking to myself, are you fucking kidding me? Are you absolutely kidding me? Like, is this, we can't even clap now because somebody might have sensory overload issues.
It's like these cunts when we were in school. That you couldn't, yeah. Remember when we were young, you couldn't bring in food into your lunch that might contain nuts because there was always some fucker who had a nut allergy.
Well, no, we weren't that. When I was going to school, that, you know, we didn't give a fuck about people's allergies. Realistically, it wasn't a thing. Do you know what I mean? You ate what the fuck you wanted. But now it is. Yeah, obviously you can't bring popcorn even into schools now and stuff. It's crazy, you know. So, yeah. Last week on
Facebook there was an ad for period pants. Have you ever heard of period pants?
Yes.
Okay, I hadn't. Like, basically, I thought there was tampons and there was sanitary towels. But
I think these are they're basically nappies.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. Yeah. But their ad anyway on Facebook was talking about, you know, basically it was doing the usual spiel and stuff. But in the ad, they used the phrase "menstruating person."
Yeah. of course.
what we would have called a woman in the olden days.
Yeah. But like if you want to menstruate, just menstruate, man. That's the thing now. Do you know what I mean? If you want to do it, you just do it.
Yeah. But I was looking at it thinking, am I reading this wrong? Menstruating person, they've obviously bent over backwards to try to not offend anybody.
Yeah, but they will. Isn't that the point? You see all these kind of memes and TikToks going around of a group getting together, and that's what I actually thought this college thing was. I thought this was, a kind of a piss take on, all the thing that's wrong with society or all the different quirks we have now. Because you've all seen those videos, the comedic videos of people, not being able to say anything without getting interrupted. That's what I thought this was, but it was actually genuine. There was as part of that video then, it showed I don't know whether it was at the same event or at other events, and this woman says to a black guy I think he's a doctor or something, he's sitting on the panel, and the student stands up and the mic is put to her and she says, before we start, can I ask you, do you identify as black? Do you know what I mean? And I was like, that's fucking nuts, but that's where we're at, isn't it now? If he doesn't want to identify...
Was that person being very, very supportive?
I think she was trying to...
racist?
I think she was trying to make a point herself. Certainly not like WIPOC. But I kind of thought, like, I know she's trying to be extreme to kind of make a point. I kind of get that. But it's certainly extreme. It's very, very, very extreme.
Yeah, and I know we said we wouldn't discuss this today, but it is a gripe of mine, and I always end up getting in conversation with people. And I was having a conversation because I said that about the period pants, because I didn't know what period pants were. So I said it to one of my kids, asking them, what are these? And then they explained.
Whoa.
Then...
Whoa. What do you mean you ask your kids? How old are your kids?
9 and 8, but they're both identify as female anyway at the moment. So they know more about it than me.
But you asked your daughter, who was 9, what
I was
period
being sarcastic. I am being sarcastic. But
I wouldn't know with you. That's why I haven't clarified. Like, what the
But anyway, when I was discussing this, the person I was discussing it with said that hospitals don't even use the word breastfeeding anymore. They use the word chest feeding.
Really?
Because not all people who identify as women have breasts. It's offensive, like, let's say, to transgender mothers. I don't know.
Yeah, but
I actually thought...
But you can't chest feed, can you?
No.
Like, So why do they have to do that? Like, you literally can't chest feed. Like,
but this is my point. They don't have to do it, but they're obviously trying to appeal. They're trying to, like, just be really nice or whatever it is. Like you're saying there with the jazz hands. Is that something that can possibly happen? Do you know what I mean? If we start getting men to essentially chest feed, obviously for the first few goals, nothing would happen. But is that something that over time would evolve and men would start to grow mammaries and glands and stuff like that and, produce milk? You know the way if men get estrogen, I'm not going to say it's going to happen. They develop breasts in a couple of weeks. So I wonder, it's going to happen obviously over time. Develop breasts. Yeah. So sure, I fucking know well. But I wonder, is it possible then to get, milk in them? Maybe. I don't know. You could probably have something that has a cartridge in it and you stick it into some, like, and this is probably the cybernetic enhancements we're talking about already. You probably, daddary glands, as Buzz says. Yeah, you could have daddary glands and you maybe just insert the milk into a bottle or something that's kind of attached. I don't know. But it's certainly very, very fucking interesting. I don't know, would men evolve over millions of years or hundreds of thousands of years? And that's one thing that does, when you talk about creationists who say that obviously God created the earth in 7 days, is it? 6 days. 6 days. Obviously that sounds ridiculous, but when you think about this, animals we've seen on all these shows I'm watching, they talk about how animals have evolved. Are you drawing something there, Charlie? I am, yeah. Did you hear that? Yeah, it's driving me nuts. I was trying to draw daddary glands on a man. I was just thinking, what would it look like? Okay, well, you just not draw. Jesus. But I every fucking time. I love you, man. I love you. I can't even, I've lost my complete chain of thought there. Train of thought. You always say you can say chain as well. You were talking about these animal programs for, with... Oh yes. So they talk about, evolution and how,
there was this particular cat, like the mountain lion, say, for example, adapted to the mountains because there was too much competition for prey in the flatlands. So in order to survive, they adapted. They went up to the mountains, and as a result, over thousands and hundreds of millions of years or whatever, they developed really padded feet, so they could walk on rocks, and a longer tail, and fucking, they can. Even their bone structure is different because they can fall off. Like they can catch a fucking goat and fall 100 feet and be grand, kind of thing. Like, you know what I mean? It's nuts. But surely when that first cat went up to the mountains and he wasn't adapted for it, surely he died.
He died, and then he doesn't get to pass on his genes.
Exactly. So that's what kind of always makes me question evolution. Is it
not the mutation happens first, though? Would that not make more sense? So these lines develop the padded things just randomly, and then eventually...
No, I don't believe that. No, I believe in nature. When we talk about nature, nurture, like this is definitely nature. This is a fact of this mountain lion used to be a fairly decent predator on the flatlands until the saber-tooth came along, or till whatever came along. And then they had to fuck offside to the mountains, and it was just through that hardship that they developed it. So maybe only the survival of the fittest, I guess, isn't that it? Only the strongest. Yeah, that's it. That's the answer. I've answered my own question. It's a case of you have 100 mountain lions that have never been in the mountains. You send them up, 60, 70 of them die, but the other 30 are just tough enough. Do you know what I mean? Do you think you're tough enough? They're the superior of their race, essentially. So they survive.
Don't have the padded paws or anything.
They don't, but they're able to fucking grin and bear it, kind of thing. And then obviously they have children, and they have children, and they have children, and eventually that's the answer. It has to be the answer, doesn't it?
I've always come to evolution the other way. It's interesting. We'll never know. Like, I don't think, for example, right, me wanting to draw there, I don't think humans really needed to write. So evolution created fingers and hands for them. I think evolution created fingers and hands, and then that gave us the ability to draw. It wasn't like that we needed to draw, and evolution came calling.
No, no, there's no way. But that what you're saying there is more creationism, then, isn't it? That's like somebody saying, "Oh shit, we need this person to write, so magic them some hands." No fucking way. The way the hands probably developed is the need to open up stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, we were originally fish, weren't we? We were all fish. So we're swimming around the camp.
Sorry, a lot of women I know.
Yeah, but we're swimming around. We're fucking just gobbing our mouth open to anything that walks into it. Next thing, we're walking, like we're sliding onto land, where we kind of an eel type thing then maybe, or something. And then we did develop kind of little crawly things, and then we got onto the land, and then we're like, fuck, I need to open that coconut over there. Do you know what I mean? Like, how can I do that with my big gobby mouth? So I'll develop hands to fucking twist it open. That's what happens, in my view. It's a need, it's a necessity, and it'll be different every time based on your environment. It has to be. That's what it is, man. It's actually a fact. I'm happy to say it's a fact right now.
I'm not going to get drawn into this argument. I think you might be wrong there. I think your logic is I like it. I think it's wrong.
Well, I can tell you that's fact, and I'll have any bet you want.
I've read The Origin of Species, man.
Yeah, and who wrote it?
Charles fucking Darwin.
Yeah, exactly. And how long is he fucking dead?
I don't know. He wrote it in 1860. It was published in 1865. Yeah. The point
is, he
didn't
know what the fuck he was talking about. He was very good in his time. We're 200 years fucking later, mate. You can watch Netflix. Will tell you all more about fucking Charles Darwin. Did. He was great. I'm not taking it away from the man. He was fantastic. It was like he's the father, man, shoulder of giants. Yeah, I know we're talking about evolution.
Right, which was Darwin's idea.
I understand that. But we have learned so much more, and it's because of Darwin that we've learned all this kind of stuff. But things are changing. Do you know what I mean? We're not accepting everything that happened before. It's constantly new change what our previous beliefs were. So Darwin is 200 years old.
I don't think there's any evolution.
And can I just
disagree with Darwin?
And I will just say that even with Darwin, my theory is still correct. Darwin believes what I believe.
Yeah. I agree, but we're just saying cause and effect is what you and I are disagreeing on here.
Yeah, you're saying effect and cause. essentially.
That evolution is just random. It just
which is wrong.
Like
Charlie, the fact that it's even an expression, cause and effect, proves I'm right. It's the cause first. Do you understand?
No.
It can't be the other way around. It depends on how you view time. Ron McClan, thanks for joining us. You say a study of Atlantic killifish in Newark Bay and 3 other highly contaminated harbours found that the species that lived in highly polluted areas had managed to evolve over a sufficiently quick period of time to adapt to the high levels of industrial pollutants in those ecosystems. An analysis of their genomes found that they evolved to be 8,000 times more resistant to the pollutants than killifish from uncontaminated sites. So there's an example. Thanks. And I just realized you could put anything up there and I'd read it before I realized what it was. But that's a prime example of evolution right there in the blink of an eye.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So I think he's siding with me here in the case that, so much of them would die.
No, look, I'm not disagreeing with you, Goldie. The point I'm trying to make you aware of is it's not about siding. Evolution, it's not intentional, right? Evolution is
100% not intentional. It's
so
necessity.
We're agreeing on that, yeah? It's
necessity.
It's a freak occurrence that just manages to be a better condition for. So you and I, let's say we both have kids, and one of our kids has some freak abnormality about it. It's not intentional, and if there was some condition in our environment where that freak abnormality is a benefit, well, then my child is more likely to survive than your child. I think we both agree with that, yeah?
I think that's a very convoluted way to try and make a point.
No, I'm trying to explain it to you.
I don't really. Yeah, I'm kind of at a loss as well.
We're right. We agree.
What I get is that if a child is born with an abnormality, so let's say an extra big, it's like a TV show, isn't it? You're saying that this kid is born with an extra big head, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And to us, that's obviously an abnormality.
Yes, a mutation.
But he's going to be better at something, or there's going to be something that he needs to do to survive that his head comes in handy for, and therefore he survives.
I'm not saying that. No.
So if it was like a shipwreck and there was a hole in the boat, and his head just happened to be perfect for the hole, and he saved everybody on the boat, that would be the show, wouldn't it? To kind of demonstrate what you're talking about.
No, it wouldn't, because he's not going to reproduce. No, I'm not explaining it well.
Oh yeah, you're probably not.
There's mutations
I'm trying to make
all
sense
the
of
time. Okay, first of all, evolution is a mutation, right? It's an aberration. It's like a guy being born with a freakishly big head or whatever.
Aberration, like that's extreme.
No, that's what it is, though. An aberration just means different from the norm. And let's say for every 100
the context of it is like Frankenstein, but go on.
But that's what evolution always is.
I understand what you're trying to say.
And then my point is this. There might be 100 mutations. 99 of those kids with those mutations will never have any benefit to them. Now, if they're living in the wild, those mutations might end up getting them killed quicker. But let's say we're living in modern times. Out of all those 100 mutations, 99 of them have no impact on human evolution or history. One of them might.
Yeah,
might
by
not.
putting its head in the boat and saving someone. That's key to history. Yeah, that's exactly the example I just gave. But no, I think you're wrong. These happen, and then life finds a way to use them, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. You're 100% wrong, and I'm willing to take any bet. I don't want to be rude. I want to take any bet that you want, because I know for a fact that you mutate, as you put it. You're an aberration because your environment requires you to be.
Okay.
It's a survival thing. 100%.
We both agree it's survival, yeah, but I know, I understand what you're saying, and I'm 100% sure I'm right. 100%.
No, you're not. But Romo Clan's fish proved this. If you want to stop drawing or moving, whatever your paper you're doing,
it doesn't prove it.
It does, because this is actually evolution in the blink of an eye. These are fish that are living in fucking murky, dirty, toxic water, and shitload of them are dying. They're floating to the surface. Everyone's like, "Going, what the fuck's going on?" But there's these little bastards down the bottom who fucking found out a way to survive, and they started having babies, and then their babies got used, like they were born into this water, so they never knew any different, and then they get stronger, and then their babies get stronger. That's what's happening here. That's evolution.
Right. Now, genuinely, I'll tell you why you're wrong here. Genuinely. And I'm not even
Give it a go. Give it a go.
No, it's the truth, Brian. Goldie, I genuinely mean this.
Oh, Jesus Christ, episode 50. Episode 50, Charlie fucks up. That could be your marching orders. You could be getting your P40 fucking 5.
Oh, I love that. I wouldn't have to do this anymore.
Wow.
So if we take Romo Clan's killifish, right?
Wow. Yes, go on. Continue. Unbelievable.
They have obviously got this.
We got him on the ropes, Romo Clan. He's on the ropes. Go on.
So their genomes show that they're 8,000 times more resistant to the pollutants than killifish from uncontaminated sites. Okay?
Yeah.
Totally. Obviously, I have no evidence of this, but I'm going to agree 100% that Romo Clan is correct on this, right?
Yeah.
Now, here's the point. Those resistant genes, or whatever it is that those fish have that have allowed them to survive because of this sudden change in their environment, those genes might have arose in that same fish 100 years ago. But because there was no contamination in that environment, the fish didn't need that gene, and it might have just worn itself out of the population, or it might just have continued to have been reproduced randomly.
Entirely plausible,
that gene, that what I'm giving you is evolution.
I think we're probably talking about the same thing then in a roundabout way.
I do agree. Yeah, I think we are. We're just looking at it through a mirror. Yeah.
But inside it, the ability to, inside every living thing, is the ability to adapt. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. The gene adapts. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's essentially what you're talking about. That there's this thing inside them that adapts. Yeah. Like I'm not arguing with you there. It isn't
I'm
entirely.
not arguing with you either. That's just my point. That's just what I'm saying. That's evolution as we understand it.
But that's very different than you saying somebody grows a tail and then suddenly they need to swing from things. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's the exact same, Goldie. Go back to what I'm trying to say. Just genuinely go back to what I'm trying to say. Roma Clan's fish have this tail, okay? And then suddenly, right, so they always have the tail, and these fish are thinking, why the fuck do I have this tail? I don't need this tail, right?
Okay.
And then suddenly, all the fish, for whatever reason, their environment changes, and this bigger fish is in their water, and it can kill them all. But the fish that have that tail, they've had the tail for generations, but it has never come in any use. Suddenly the fish that have that tail are able to cling onto a tree. You can see where I'm coming from.
Just had it. They always had it.
Yeah, it was always there in the population somewhere. It was just never considered important. Now, all the other fish that don't have that tail in Newark Bay die because they're not, they can't resist. And the fish that have that resistant gene are the ones that procreate. We are agreeing with each other, I think, here, Goldie.
Yeah, no, we absolutely are. Are. I just think it's very convoluted in the way you went around it. But I think it's time to move on from the evolution debate. And again, thanks to Charles Darwin for the little bit of work he did to kick us off.
Fantastic, Charles.
Moving on.
That gets a solid 10.
Moving on with the next segment of the show, and tonight's all about kind of, I suppose, humanity, isn't it? It always is, but about the apocalypse.
After a show about AI for our first topic, and then the moon.
The moon. But we're talking here now. We're talking about our future leaders and the future politics. I suppose when you see some of the protests happening today, although all that youth, you never really think about it. All that youth, they're the future presidents and prime ministers, and like that's fucking. Somebody mentioned that to me the other day, and I never thought about it like that. Do you know what I mean? You're thinking, shit, like we're in real big trouble. So maybe all these things in the future that wipe us out will happen because of this. So this brings us on to the story that you submitted to me on the second. Trans model turned politician promises free breast. And this ties in perfectly with our chest feeding. Talk to me about this, girl.
Mm. Well, when you call her a politician, this what confused me. It's like calling you a politician if you suddenly put your name forward for election. I mean, she hasn't been elected yet, but she's running for election. She is an OnlyFans model.
Charlie,
do you have any idea?
Charlie, you're breaking. Yeah. I don't know if you're walking around or what's happening, but you're
I'm just sitting here.
You're dropping in and out. If you can if you can move closer to your router, that would be fantastic. I know what you're saying. What you're saying basically is this girl is a politician because she's no prior experience. It's probably like it's like somebody.
Like Donald Trump.
No, but for example, I could quit my job tomorrow. You know, before the jokes start coming in. Yeah, I'm going to eat.
Sorry, Goldie, you're breaking up on me there.
Well, Charlie, but if I decide tomorrow to quit my job and golf is going to be my profession, I am technically a professional to earn my income.
Yeah.
So it's the same with these people. They decide to run for office, so suddenly they're a politician. But we all know they're not.
Yeah.
So talk to me about it.
Well, basically, she's running for election in Mexico, and you know the way politicians will have election promises. And her election promise, her only election promise, is that if she's elected, she will get her breasts enlarged. And then on top of that, any woman in her district, I can't remember what province in Mexico she's running for election, but every woman will be given breast augmentation for free if she's elected, regardless of whether you vote for her or not.
But did you say that she's going to get one herself?
She promised she'd get one herself, yeah.
So she's probably doing this to get a free boob job.
She looks like she's already had her tits done. What's your understanding of OnlyFans? I'm not like it's not porn.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it is.
Is it? Right.
Yeah, but again,
softcore, is it?
Oh Jesus, no! Whatever you want. Right. And this is the gas thing about it, isn't it? Like, it's just I don't know. It would have happened without COVID. You know, you've seen over the years, Charlie, I'm sure, when you're browsing adult sites, you know, kind of cam girls and things like that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, when I'm browsing adult sites.
Yes. You see, you always see these cam girls.
Take off your shirt. You first.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. And you see them pop up when they want to talk to you, and it's free to talk to them publicly.
And only all this 8 kind of kilometers away from me. Yeah.
Yeah, all this kind of stuff. And that's been around since the Indians. Like, let's be honest about it. And you know,
racist.
From our point of view, that's been around for years, like since the start of the internet. And we're past it. But suddenly COVID happens and people need money and TikTok is as popular. So then we come up with this thing called OnlyFans, where women, and I'm sure men and everything in between, can basically go on camera, a cam site, which is an app, so it's more accessible, I suppose, and strip and masturbate and have sex and do whatever you want them to do or they want to do, for money, subscriptions and gifts and stuff like that. And people are making a genuine. I actually only suggested it to my own children recently. You know, if they were struggling to pay the rent. I did
the
say
rent
it
in your gaff.
No. Yeah, my house. No, my eldest is living abroad and she's like obviously thinking about money and getting a job and stuff like that. So it's like, you know, worst case you can go on OnlyFans.
And would you do any girl on girl, or
well, that would have to be? I'd say it would have to be, but we won't. Let's move quickly off that.
Well, it's interesting that this woman has said she's not. I'll read the last bit here of her promise. She's pinky sweared she'll keep her OnlyFans account running because I make too much money there. So she's admitting she's making a hell of a lot of money, and she doesn't intend to quit her. I was going to say day job. I suppose, is it a night job more likely?
Why should she? Because she's proud of it. She's not hiding the fact that she's a cam girl. It's cool now to be on OnlyFans. You have Kerry Katona. You remember Kerry Katona?
Yes, yeah.
She's on it. She's on OnlyFans, and I saw one of her videos the other day. It was sent to me.
Like doing porn.
Yeah, she's having a shower and stuff, and God knows what else she does. I'm not on OnlyFans, so I don't know. But you get sent these kind of videos that are screen recorded of it around every now and again. And she's on it in the shower and whatever. And I'm like thinking, fucking hell, it's some fall from grace for her. Because she had a lot of, because she was obviously at one stage on top of the world in the girl band, and then life went to shit for her. God love her, she has had a terrible time. But it's amazing to think that it's okay. She's okay doing it, and people seem to be okay with her doing it. So being a cam girl has become acceptable now. But what I think is amazing.
Surprised by that, are you?
Well, I just think it's gas. Like, it's like, why now all of a sudden? Like, why is it okay now? Is it because women can feel empowered now, so that they don't feel like ashamed doing this stuff? I don't know. Like, why all of a sudden?
Do you honestly think a mum or a dad would be? Okay, I'm guessing any mum or dad would be mortified or disappointed when they find out that their daughter's gone into porn. Yeah.
You would, traditionally speaking, you would, of course, yeah.
So you're saying now that mums or dads wouldn't be mortified if their daughter is a cam girl, like they're not going to hide it from their friends. Like, I think
the majority would still have an issue.
All right, okay, sorry.
But there definitely would be some that, I see. You're very good at bringing around a different perception.
No, I'm just curious. I don't really. Yeah, no, I'm just curious.
But I suppose parents' values and ideas are considered old-fashioned now, so that's probably how the person reconciles it in their head. I don't know.
Okay. But I think it'll be interesting if this woman gets into. Go on, yeah.
What I thought was very interesting about your story there was that she pinky sweared to keep running her OnlyFans account. So this is a politician who's pinky swearing. Like, what?
Yeah. Like, does that give it more weight or less weight?
Are we supposed to go, oh, Jesus, she's definitely not going to break that, because you can't break a pinky fucking swear.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or case of, if Leo Varadkar tomorrow, he probably would pinky swear, though, wouldn't he? He probably would. He probably would fucking pinky swear.
He would, yeah.
I love him. I think he's a brilliant politician.
For a gay man, he's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, that's not even important. I wasn't going to bring that up. Most reasonable people.
No, I think it's great. He was delighted to see all those schoolgirls and boys back in their school uniforms. I'm proud of it.
He has some great one-liners, in fairness to him. Like, he's a bit of crack. Like, he is. To be honest with you, you definitely have.
If I voted, I'd vote for him.
Yeah, no, I did vote for him. Well, his representative, I suppose. But yeah, I definitely love Go for Boys. But yeah, so this girl is basically saying that if she gets elected, she'll give out free boob jobs. We know she's not going to get elected. This is just a publicity stunt for her OnlyFans page. Well,
this is the thing, Goldie. Are you sure she won't get elected? I mean, we talk
100%. Like, I know. You can say, look at Trump and whatever.
And look at that guy with the moon. I mean,
I know. But no, like, we're really not that bad yet, I don't think. I don't think that's like a next level. That's next level stuff. Do you know? Like, obviously there's going to be girls and people, and this is the thing. She's going to win over voters who feel like they might want a boob job of some sort.
Yeah, that's a small minority, though.
Yeah, no, she, and I don't want to go down the whole gender thing again, because it seems to take up all of our shows. But
I wanted to bring up gender on this, though.
But that's the thing. She's mentioned that it's for women. She actually explicitly states it's for women. So do we now accept that women include people who identify, or should we still be asking that question?
Well, she said as well, trans.
She did say
promises, she promises to include trans women, yeah. And they won't have to pay for it either, yeah.
Okay. So if I'm a trans woman now sitting in Mexico, I'm thinking, fuck, I vote for this girl. I can identify with her. I'll be able to get a boob job. Yeah, she will get votes. She'll definitely get votes. But is it going to be enough? Totally. Is it going to be enough? No, it can't be.
But let's say the other voters, okay, the ones who aren't interested in boob jobs, they're going to look at her and they might say, right, she might be a little bit naive or whatever, but she's different. She's different from all the men in the suits. And she's hot. Let's be honest. If you're voting and you think someone...
And you're probably going to subscribe to her OnlyFans page, and she's probably going to start, like... You're going to start masturbating to her and stuff. So she's going to win you over.
Imagine having a politician... Yeah, I think it's not beyond the realms of possibility that she gets elected.
I don't think she will. This is definitely something I'd like you. You've been drawn all night there. I'd like you to take a note of this. Let's follow her election campaign throughout our shows.
Well,
and see what happens.
I've signed up for her OnlyFans site, so I'm sure she'll let me know. But some campaign slogans that she's got, right? You know the way you have to come up with catchy slogans.
Yeah.
So give your mum tits is one of them.
Give your mum tits.
Give your mum tits. So vote for me, basically, and your mum gets tits. With me,
hold on. Let's go back there. Like, what child, what kid is sitting there thinking to themselves, "Oh, do you know what I'd love to get my mom would look great if she had better tits." Like, do you know what I mean?
There's certainly a niche market that slogan is aimed at, but they're out there. They're out there.
And we all watched. During adolescence, we always dreamed about our mothers, didn't we?
I always dreamed about your mum. Yeah. Here's another one. I like this one. With me, your vote counts for 2. Like, that's smart.
Yeah, that's good.
That's smart.
That's good.
So I will watch this space. I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that she gets elected or not. I just would like to say one more thing about this, Goldie. I'd like to ask your opinion on this. Let's reverse the gender on this whole funny story for the moment. Supposing this was a man running for office and he proposed, I don't know, dick enlargements or something anyway, or the man was posting pictures of himself online, or the man was a porn star, wouldn't he be lambasted in the media for this? That he's using sexuality, or that here again we have, the men can...
Yeah, but I think isn't that a traditionalist way of thinking of things, isn't it? Like that. Do we have to stop bringing that up? Are we the ones with the issue that, can we not just embrace the change? Can we not just say this is a good thing? Why do we have to say, oh, if that was a man? Like, let them have their moment. Like, why do we always have to... Let
me put it this way then, right? When I was picking this story, sending it to you, it was between this and the guy that we featured on the show a few months ago, a Canadian politician who had done a Zoom call. He's an elected deputy, and he had done a Zoom call where he was naked, right? He got caught in the Zoom call naked with the phone just covering his cock. And he got severely censored for that. He's in the media again because last week in another Zoom call, he went for a slash. And now he's stepped aside. Now, he hasn't quite resigned. I don't understand. He stepped aside, so he's no longer working as a politician at the moment, but he hasn't resigned his seat.
Yeah, it flies in contrast to this, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? Yeah.
No, absolutely.
And he's apologized, and he's hung his head basically, and he's doing the whole shame thing.
Yeah, but
and this woman here is proud of it.
Yeah, but it doesn't need to be a thing. I know what you're saying. I do. I get that there's definitely still an imbalance there. But does that imbalance exist because we're just going through that change? And it needs to level out, and we need to just stop mentioning it. We need to stop begrudging.
Maybe we're helping level it out. Maybe
we are. I don't know. It's a tough one. History will judge us for it.
Well, one last thing then, Goldie. Hand on heart, honestly, if a man was running for that same Mexican government that this girl's running for, and he had a campaign slogan, "Give your wife tits. Give your mum tits," wouldn't he be in serious shit for that?
Yeah, but I think people would say to him, like, unless he was a trans, people would say to him, like, what right have you got to do this? Because you haven't experienced this problem where you need to have tits. Do you know what I mean? Like, so if it's not a woman, how does he understand that struggle? So why should he have the right to do it? But if he was a trans woman, if he was a male politician that said he was actually trans, well, then I think there might be leeway for him.
Maybe, yeah.
I think that's where we're at this point in society. But it's very interesting that you bring it up, because our penultimate story tonight is about a Danish journalist who records herself having sex for Swinger Club Report. Now, you sent this story into us this week, Charlie, and this is basically, to put it into very quick context, is a girl in Copenhagen who's a journalist was doing a story on a sex club reopening after COVID, and she went along to report on it and actually ended up having sex at this venue live on air.
Live on air, yeah. I've actually just sent you the link to her. It's a 2-minute clip. I've just sent it to Midnight in Baghdad group there if you want to put that up on the website. It's a 2-minute clip, and basically if your listeners just want to scroll to maybe about 70 or 80 seconds in, you can actually hear her having sex. It's the news report. It's really intense and loud and graphic. You can actually hear balls slapping against her. It's
I'm probably going to save this. I love the idea of this already. Okay,
it's just crazy. Can you hear this?
That just sounds like you've farted.
Well, that's someone speaking Dutch. No, or Danish. You can't hear that. No. Okay. Well, I'll let the listeners listen to themselves anyway. It's a graphic audio, right? It's really graphic.
Charlie, can you hear me?
Yep.
I have it here. You said 30 seconds in, is it?
No, about 70 seconds in.
70 seconds in. So a minute and 10 seconds. You could have just said that. Okay, here we go. We're going to listen to it now, folks.
That's you breathing.
That's fucking amazing. That's beautiful. I'm going to definitely bookmark that.
Buzz says the sound is shit. I couldn't hear it either, to be honest, Goldie.
Oh, could you not? Well, if you couldn't hear it, I'm very sorry, but we'll put it up on the website. But definitely look it up. It's very. I'm excited.
You can actually hear the ball slap, can't you?
You can, yeah. It's like so loud. It's just like
it's. Yeah.
And she's reporting on it. It's absolutely fantastic. And if you're watching our live stream page here now, I have it pictures of her and that up. But it's everything I've been looking for in the last couple of weeks, I will say. I've been looking for something that's
you love it. It has to be real, doesn't it?
It has to be real.
But
talk to me about it. So are you happy enough with this girl doing this? Like, is it okay?
Yeah.
It's investigative journalism at its best, isn't it?
It certainly is. And can you imagine her coming up with the idea and running that by her editor? She must have been mortified but they let her. First of all, fair play to this was public radio. They let her, like imagine this on 98 FM. They had the courage to let her go ahead and do it. Now, I don't know what the kind of attitudes to sex are. Like, I'm thinking Denmark, near Netherlands, are they maybe more open about sex and maybe more?
The Scandinavian countries would be, for sure. But just to quote her here, now, to be fair to her, she says she hadn't planned to have sex during the interview, but added, for me, that not everyone has access to. Louise said... She started off bouncing on knees about 20 years ago. Oh, we're talking about a different Louise. But anyway, she said having sex with her interviewees had released the guests who were initially reluctant to speak to her. So the impression I'm getting here is that these people were kind of very wary of her. So she obviously wanted to fit in and, she wanted to give an accurate story to her readers. So in order to do that, she had to loosen them up. So she thought, if I get involved here, if I have sex with these people, not only do I get an insight into it, but I'll get
free shag.
Experience it itself, a free shag. And you
can understand the reluctance of swingers there. Like, I know they're not cheating on their partners because they're with their partners
at all. No, I don't.
Really?
And as a swinger myself, no, but obviously I am. My partner isn't. But as a swinger myself, I fully get what was happening there. They weren't insecure. They weren't worried about her. They just manipulated her. That's what they did. They used that situation to get her involved. And they wanted to make sure that she wasn't doing it just for the story. She actually enjoyed it and essentially became a member of the club. Because I think that's going to change that investigative journalist's life right there.
For the better, do you think? Or?
Well, it depends on your perspective. If you like having lots of group sex and whatever, well then, yeah, you're happy out. If you don't, well, I'm sorry for you. But I think looking at her, I think she's fucking happy.
Yeah, she looks happy. She sounds happy in the video.
She does, most definitely. But it's are great. You saying? Do you think it's bad journalism, or is it?
No, I think it's great. It's real journalism. It's a real good human interest story. So this was back in March. So she would have done this at the end of February, which surprised me that Denmark had opened sex clubs that early. Like when you look at where we are now again with variants and so on. But I think it's great journalism. Really, really good. There's one thing, though, that
our executive producer earlier on said to us, what's the big deal about this? Do you know what I mean? Why is it a big story? Did you ever see a show called Sexetra years ago? And it was kind of like, it was about these, inverted comma, journalists going around to different places around Europe, sex clubs or kind of quirky places, and getting an insight into these worlds. And oftentimes there would be kind of swinger group stuff or people that tattoo themselves or get piercings or whatever, all sorts of kind of mad stuff. It's kind of an iteration of that, isn't it?
But she's gone one step further by, I suppose, becoming part of the story, hasn't she?
And I think in these shows that they would become part of the story, they would probably get involved as well. But this was something that was pre-recorded and was targeted at that market. And I think what's unique about this story to our executive producer in response is that the fact that it wasn't intentional. Do you know what I mean? The fact that it wasn't planned, that's what makes it amazing. Now, I've no doubt, like, let's be honest about it, this journalist, what's her name? Do we know? She's Danish. Louise. I've no doubt that when she decided to go there that night, she obviously had an idea that this might happen. She probably dressed up nicely for the occasion. So I think she went in with an open mind and probably expected that it might happen and she could be swayed that way.
Right.
But that's still very different than I work for Sexetra and I have to go do a show about sex. And that's the difference for me.
It was a bit more natural. And you love that, of course.
I do. I really do.
Yeah. Her editors are getting her to do some cool reporting on death row next month. So we'll see how that goes.
So presumably she'll have to be resuscitated at some point.
Yeah.
You were going to say something before I interrupted you. There was one thing.
Yeah, there's one thing I found very offensive to the poor girl. Maybe you won't as a swinger yourself, but I'm just going to read it out. According to Build, that must be the radio show or whatever, during the feature film, she asked the guy, "What are you seeing right now?" And a man answered that he was looking at a gorgeous woman who had never tried to be in a swingers club before. Actually, sorry, I think I might have misunderstood this. I thought she was talking to the guy who she was having sex with. Sorry, I misunderstood that.
No, this is part of the flat.
A random guy. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. He's talking about her. Sorry,
when you say feature film, my understanding of this that it was a radio show.
Yeah, they must be making it into a kind of feature film, not feature fictional film, but I think by film they mean like a segment on the news kind of thing.
Right. We really need to look into this, Charlie. Will you mark that as well? Because I need to see these videos. I'm really excited.
Clearly, obviously, you could see better quality porn at the click of a button, but it's more just the fact that you think. You love the idea that this woman went in as a journalist and came out as a swinger.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's what it's all about.
She was there and the atmosphere got to her. And
it's about turning somebody onto something that they didn't think they needed to be turned onto. And I lately find, do you ever watch kind of the category of surprise sex or blindfolded sex where you will have your partner blindfolded and you start off kissing them and they might give you a blowjob or whatever, and he gets his mate in while she doesn't know, and the blindfold is still on, and obviously whatever's going on now. I always kind of worry because technically it could be considered rape. It really could. So
probably is considered rape.
It technically is, but so you'd really need to know your partner before doing it because it could go pear shaped.
Does the partner find out at the end?
Yeah, and that's the most exciting part. I just find myself forwarding to the bit where she finds out, because if her face isn't genuine to me, I'm not watching it. No. Do you know what I mean? I need to see somebody who's genuinely surprised, genuinely disgusted, and then ultimately just loves
brilliant.
it. Absolutely, you know what I mean? That's what I need to see.
Yeah.
But
and like that's good acting. Like that woman has to be able to do all that. Or it has to be real, of course.
Then it's not acting. That's how I justify it in my mind. If they satisfy those three things, it's not acting.
What are the three things again?
Surprised, disgusted, and then loves it. Because you have to be a little bit disgusted for a moment, don't you? But then it's so good.
I suppose,
but you don't give a fuck.
You're gas. You're reminding me of years ago when I first got the internet. There was a website called Cum Shot Surprise. Cream Pie Surprise, maybe.
Oh,
Cum Shot Surprise. No, Cream Pie Surprise, or else Cum Shot Surprise, where the guy comes inside the woman and then she's like, he suddenly stops fucking her, like he doesn't care anymore. And then she's trying to keep riding him. This is usually how it would end anyway. And then she's feels him getting soft, or else she just knows he doesn't care anymore. And then she starts giving out to him. What do you mean you came in me? You said you wouldn't come in me, and that kind of thing. I love that. And I could never
I've never watched that. I actually never watched it. That's amazing.
And I can never understand why I loved it. You've just articulated right now why. Like, that's brilliant.
The surprise, the disgust, and the love.
Yeah.
I must check that out, because that is definitely interesting. And
now I'm guessing that must have been fake, though. I'm guessing because these were porn stars, if I remember right.
Yeah. But
so they're acting.
And I'm sure you can probably find some genuine ones. Then they're hard to find. They're like finding diamonds. But I think that's definitely something to look into. But I remember always, the Cum Shot Surprise. I
checked it out. Yeah.
No, I haven't checked it out. But my point I was trying to get to is, she obviously, you said he either goes soft or she realizes he's not into it anymore. Isn't that such an amazing thing, isn't it? Like, you're so into it, and then you do the Cum Shot Surprise, and all of a sudden you don't give a fuck. You really don't give a fuck, but you have to make an effort, but you'll probably give it 2 minutes of effort. And if she doesn't come in those 2 minutes, you're like, fuck you. You've had your opportunity there. Do you know what I mean? Like, the glow is still there for me, but like 2 minutes later, like, fuck you. You're getting done.
Yeah. It's one of the few times in porn you don't mind seeing the guy's face, because he's probably got a kind of a wicked smile on him.
Yeah, but you can know, and I think they know as well, don't they? They know immediately. They know immediately as soon as you lose interest. So yeah, it's not. I don't think it's lost on them either.
Yeah. So you're so disrespectful. I love it,
Charlie.
Absolutely love it.
I'm so what? Sorry, you broke up there.
You're so disrespectful. I love it. I absolutely love it.
There you go. Cream Pie Surprise. Our final story before we get into our agony aunt tonight, folks, is hospital patient dies after security guard performs surgery. Charlie, we've got about half an hour or so left. Talk to me about this. What's going on here? This seems intriguing.
Yeah, it's sad. It's a shame we end the night with this story, because it is the sad one. It's really horrific. So basically, to sum up this story, and it's hard to believe, or maybe you've seen so much shit that you do believe it, but basically, in a Pakistani hospital 2 weeks ago, a woman died after an ex-security guard posed as a doctor and performed surgery on her. So this woman had gone in because her back was sore. She had a wound in her back, and she went in, and basically the guy who operated on her he was just an imposter. And the way it seems to have worked, I couldn't understand, like, how does this happen? It seems to be very different to hospitals over here. Basically, they were in the waiting room, and a guy came up to them identifying himself as a doctor, and they have to pay him, and they have to pay him some money up front before you'll get an operation in Pakistan. So you kind of have to come with money.
Right.
So this guy approached this woman and her family, said he was a doctor. The amazing thing is, though, not that they believed him, because that makes sense that they believed him, but that he got an operating theater, and he had qualified real technicians in the operating theater with him. In other words, an anesthetist, nurses, all these people.
Wow. And was he a security guard in that particular hospital?
He was. He'd gotten fired the previous month for extorting money from patients.
So he was obviously presumably going up hoping that it was like some bullshit diagnosis and he could, get the money off them but not have to do any mad surgeries. But on this particular...
he cut her open.
Yeah, so on this occasion he's like, oh, bollocks. This is she's presenting with something nuts. And, he has to do surgery. And I suppose being a security guard, his face would have been known around the hospital. So people are probably looking at him going, I kind of know this fella, but I'm too embarrassed.
That's a good point. Yeah. I thought he was a security guard or a janitor, but now he's in scrubs. You can't ask. Yeah.
It is insane.
It is.
Think that somebody could do that though, isn't it? Fucking hell. That's not,
but here's
that's not
the
what
crazy
I expected.
thing.
That's not what I expected when I got this story, but go on.
Okay. In the same hospital, it happened again. That's the crazy thing.
And I'm sorry to laugh at somebody dying, but go on.
4 years earlier. So that poor woman died. Yeah, your man carried out the operation. He also did 2 home visits after that, for which he would have been paid more money by the family.
Are you serious?
And, yeah. Jesus. And then when she was getting worse, they went into the hospital, to the same hospital, and they asked for Dr. Butt. And they were told he isn't a doctor here. And it was only then that they got to the bottom of it. So it's shocking. But 4 years ago, a woman posed as a neurosurgeon, Goldie. A neurosurgeon. Jeez. And she conducted operations, wait for it, for 8 months alongside qualified doctors at this hospital. 8 months she was able to bluff her way.
And what?
Like that's shocking.
What happened to all these other patients?
Well, a neurosurgeon, you don't want to think, don't you?
But was she just a really good bluffer? Did she actually do a job on them and they're okay?
Yeah.
Because
I'd love to,
if 8 months goes by, surely fucking there would have been, alarm bells would have gone off if she wasn't doing a half decent job.
Yeah, true.
Or was it a case?
Is it racist to presume that a lot of hospitals in Pakistan are chaotic and don't keep good records and so on?
Presumably, you'd have to think that. Obviously, it'd be harder to happen in, I suppose, a Western hospital, Western society's hospital. But it's definitely makes you wonder. Is it kind of like a Catch Me If You Can thing? That movie that Leo DiCaprio did, Tom Hanks, Frank something, wasn't it? Frank Abagnale, was that his name?
Can't remember.
But it's a true story about who gets on all the planes as a pilot, pretends to be a pilot for X amount of years and gets paid by the company, or pretends he does, and gets flown around. So is it a case of something like that it's just ultimate confidence fraudsters? That
you can just bluff your way through it. Yeah,
so maybe she didn't actually do any of the operation, that she had all these other people around her and she was, presenting
telling
herself,
them what to do. Yeah.
Essentially, presenting herself as this world class, and they were honoured to almost work with her, So, you'd have to think it's something like that rather than them actually going in, because you'd want to be one sick bastard.
I know. Or she's watching YouTube clips under the table as she's performing, trying to copy what's on the video.
But there you go. Doesn't that show you then, if it's possible to do that from watching a YouTube video? Are we educating these people too much? Go on.
A month ago, same hospital, another man was arrested for posing as a doctor. He didn't carry out any operations, but he'd gotten paid by patients to do operations. So he might have gone up to 6 or 7 people in one day, booked them in for appointments, and then got caught.
That's amazing stuff.
So really that's 3 times in one hospital in Pakistan alone.
Yeah. So it's obviously a common enough scam over there, and we're only getting to it now. It's shocking. It's amazing what the lengths that human beings will go to against their fellow man. But I have to say, and this, because I obviously don't read the stories that you submit until we're live on air. It's all kind of, you hit me with these things. And I obviously get to see the headlines because it's in the link. But when I read this headline, I thought to myself, oh, this is obviously a situation like where, there was a shootout or something, and the paramedic got shot and they're flying back in an ambulance and this security guard is in the back and he's left with no choice but to operate to save her life or they're going to die before they get to the hospital type of job. I was thinking it was something like this was a hero. Do you know what I mean? That was my impression of it. And it's interesting how I suppose I would take that up, that it was something more of a good news story rather than a horrific.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah. It's horrific, isn't it?
Absolutely, it is.
The truth is, the hospital didn't even apologize. The only official kind of comment from them was, "We can't keep up with what every doctor and what everyone is doing at all times." It's a large
they're probably
hospital.
right. They're probably
but
right.
I know they're right, but you don't say like. Would you like? You're not gonna want to go to that hospital if anything happens to you. We can't keep up with what every doctor and everyone is doing at all times. I know that's true, but you don't say that. It's a large hospital.
I know that, but like if you take, for example, if you take one of our nation's hospitals, and if you've ever been in them, you know that to get through a door, you have to scan a badge and you have to get in, and there's a lot of security, even just around before you make contact with a human. There's things that only certain places, only certain people can go.
Yeah.
And access to certain computers and whatever. So, but you'd imagine in the likes of Pakistan there, they'll probably like we were 20, 30 years ago when you would have got away with that kind of thing.
Maybe, yeah.
Do you know?
It's just terrifying. It
is. It is crazy. And thankfully, if you are going on holiday to Pakistan for whatever reason or a business trip, don't plan on having any surgery. You know what I mean? Like you got to be careful. Charlie, that brings us up to our final segment of the show. Oh, I'm in agony. And
give me a sec. I've got to go and grab it here.
This is the part of the show, folks, where we have people writing into us, and thank you so much. We get so many people writing in. Unfortunately, we can't answer all of our emails on this show. As you know, of course, I do respond in writing to most of you or all of you. But Charlie picks every month or every show, he picks an interesting news story, a story where somebody looks for help and somebody we hope that we can help here on the show. And me, Goldie Metcalf, performs your agony and function. Charlie, who's our lucky writer innerer this month?
Bill. Or Bill.
Bill. It's Bill.
Yeah. So, dear Goldie, I'm a happily married man for 13 years, but I am thinking of leaving my wife. I
think about that all the time, but go on.
Yeah, imagine that's the end. I'm a happily married man for 13 years, but I'm thinking of leaving my wife.
Perfectly fucking normal. Go on.
I still love her, but she's never said she loved me once in all the 13 years.
Wow.
Can you help me?
Wow. It's very interesting that this is the story, because it's something that I suppose has come to the forefront in my life recently. I'm not saying directly with me, but I suppose in a little bit maybe. But it's something that's been on the consciousness, I suppose, recently.
Which part?
Very disappointing for somebody who's been married for 13 years to say I love you and not get it. I love you back. My query, first of all, and while I may have an insight into the reasons why now? Why after 13 years has it suddenly become an issue? And I think that's the question you need answered. And I could give you the standard answer of, if this person wasn't able to say I love you, it's probably because they were never told that growing up and they didn't have affectionate parents and all through, go through that whole thing. Because that is, we're back to nature versus nurture again, aren't we? We're kind of products of our upbringing. So that's probably the initial reason why she's not saying I love you. But the question is why? Why now? Is it after 13 years? Is it? Why is it a problem now? What's happening in your life right now that's making you suddenly have an issue with this? Do you have mice, Charlie? Can I ask you?
No. Why?
Because I can hear like a little mouse or a budgie or something.
Sorry, God, I'm rubbing my foot. I'm rubbing my foot. rubbing the side of my big toe because I found that very interesting. What you were saying, I found it very calming because it felt like you were talking to me. Do you know what I mean? Because you're addressing. I know you're addressing Bill, but you're talking to me, and I'm the only one listening to you. So I found it very. It was kind of surreal, to be honest. I'm not a married man at present, but I hear you.
At present. I love it. Yeah, but will you stop? Tell the budgie to shut the fuck up there for a moment. Yeah, but Bill, I think you need to kind of look inwards and see yourself. What is it that's making you ask this question? Why is it a problem now all of a sudden? The last 18 months or so, or less than 18 months, but it's easy to say 18 months, isn't it? Has been very tough on people. You know, life is tough generally, isn't it? Life is just a pain in the hole. We talk about this all the time. But the last 18 months have been particularly bad for everybody at the same time. So I think you need to look at is what's happened there. What's going on there in the last 18 months that's making you think this now? And this could be awakening. This could be time for you to move on. It absolutely could be. But I think you need to look inwardly first and find out what's the root cause. Buzz says, couldn't even get through a podcast without telling Pudge to shut up. Charlie, you were going to talk to
Goldie, he says he's a happily married man at the start of the letter.
Yes, but he's not, like, what he means is that...
He isn't happily married, is he?
No, he's not, because he has this problem. But what he's trying to say is that other than this one issue, everything else is perfect. Is what he's trying to say. So
do you so what's your advice? I mean, let's take what you're suggesting there. Everything else might be perfect, or as good as perfect can be. You said it yourself. You're married 13 years. Nothing's perfect.
Yeah, but you see, I'd love to be able to sit here and tell everyone the answers to their problems, and I'd love to be able to say that everybody should do A, B, C, and D. But that's not my role. My role here is to make people. To give people options, I suppose, and to give people insight. And, you know, sometimes you might be able to recommend a certain course of action directly, but oftentimes people need to come to those conclusions themselves. And that's all I'm trying to facilitate, Charlie. So I just want this person, Bill, to look inwardly to himself and say, why am I feeling this way now? And if you have to write that down in a chart, do it.
No, need to write it down.
No, but if Bill needs to put down on paper to kind of visualize it or whatever, do you know what I mean? To make it tangible, then like do
the pros and cons. Is that what you're saying?
Almost like the pros and cons, yeah. But I suppose it's not so much a pro and con because you're not evaluating your relationship in that sense. You're trying to find the root cause. It's a root cause analysis you're doing as to why am I feeling this way now. And when you will come up to those answers, you will find something. When I say it, something probably comes to mind immediately, and you probably just need to address that. And that's all I can do for our listeners, Charlie. And I don't promise anything else other than
it's interesting that you turned this story into not an issue with Bill. I know that you're not saying Bill has issues, but you're turning this into something Bill has to look inside himself. You touched on the wife, but you're not willing to go there. I mean, should not the wife be condemned? Maybe that's too strong a word, but...
Yeah, but he doesn't know why. It could be very... And Bill, if you want to come, please do with your findings. It could be very well that the wife has a problem that she needs to fix and needs to address. But right now, you don't even know that. You don't know what it is. So before you get to that stage, it's a process. You have to figure out what you want and what's wrong with you and why you're feeling this way. Because you can't expect these people to be mind readers.
Does the wife have to love him to have a happy marriage?
Does the wife... Hi, this is Bill. I'll ask her. Does the wife have to love him for it to be a happy marriage? Well, that's the kind of...
We have this issue this idea of marriage being all about love. And then, of course, we think of that country, Pakistan and India there. We were talking about Pakistan a few minutes ago. marriage there is nothing to do with love. It's about compatibility. It's about social status. And they're doing okay. That's their, attitude to marriage.
Yeah, and I
Is
suppose love sometimes develops in those scenarios.
And even if it doesn't,
you learn
it
to
could
love.
still be a good marriage.
It could be, yeah. But we've also seen the fallout of that belief system too. People, run away to escape their prearranged marriages and things like that. You know what I mean? And people aren't happy in them. So I wouldn't necessarily say it works. It happens.
Yeah.
It definitely happens. But
people break
up. It can
after...
work. It can work. But I don't know what the statistics are on the success of prearranged marriages. And I think it'd be foolish to speculate on it. I think it definitely works for some people, but it's not going to work for everybody. To answer your question, do you have to love to be in a happy marriage? Again, when you talk about traditional sense, the minute you bring in marriage, well then yes. If you say partnership, well then I can give you a different answer.
Go on then.
Okay, so partnership is what it is, isn't it? Like it's people doing things together. It's people fighting the good fight. Do you know what I mean? Struggling through life together. And sometimes finding happy moments in that. So yeah, I think definitely you can do it without loving someone, but there has to be a respect, maybe.
Yeah, and affection,
you don't want to be fucking hating these people, that's too much to ask. But yeah, I think it definitely can be done with love.
So sure. You're not a married man, and you've been living with your partner for 20 odd years now.
Yeah.
Let me give you a hypothetical scenario. Supposing tomorrow when you wake up, your partner tells you she wants to talk to you. She's very calm. And she says, look, I'm not going to change a single iota about the way I behave, about the way I talk to you, about the time we spend together, about our sex life. Nothing will change. But I'm telling you now that I don't love you. But everything else is going to be the same. Everything will be the same. And I'll never bring this up again. What would you do?
Oh, it would make my life so much fucking easier. Yeah, I suppose it's hard to take. That would be hard to take.
Why? Because it's humiliating, is it? Or because
maybe,
you think it's not? It's fake now. It's like the Matrix conversation. Everything else will look the same, but it'll be a simulation.
Yeah, it would definitely be a hard pill to swallow. But finding the courage and the know-how and the opportunity, I suppose, to change that to
see, you take it as a challenge, do you?
No, I don't. No.
Make her love me.
No, Jesus, no, I don't. Well, maybe, yeah, but that's not what I'm getting at. I mean, for you to actually make the decision, right, well, I can't accept that. I'm going to move out, or I'm going to set up a new life and start again, or whatever. That's a hard choice to make. So it might be easier to just accept it. And let
plus your feelings won't change, Goldie. I mean, you still love her. You're still mad about her and so on. So the fact that she says she doesn't love you anymore, why would you believe that?
Maybe there's enough love in me for both of us.
So what do you think you'd do? You'd try to make it work?
I think you have to try to make it work initially. Like, it'd be wrong after so long not to try and make it work. Definitely. But thankfully, we don't have to worry about those issues in reality.
Bill does.
Bill unfortunately does. And Bill, please let us know how you get on. Write to us next week or the next show. When is our next show, Charlie? And we do apologize, folks, for the change of schedule last week.
Not at all.
Well, I wasn't apologizing to you. I was apologizing to the folks. But we're back on the 12th of July, which in our country is a very, very important day for episode 51 of Midnight in Baghdad.
Episode 51. Wow. 4 more episodes to go.
There you go.
The 12th of July.
12th of July. All going well. Listen, folks, we hope you have an absolutely fantastic month. Thank you very much for listening in. A lot of good things to happen. Things are opening up now. There's a light at the end of that tunnel. So let's go out there and make memories again, folks. I've been Goldie Metcalf.
I'm still Charlie Naughton.
And this has been Midnight in Baghdad.